Can you hear me?
Yeah, we good.
Okay.
Technology, man.
Yeah, man, that's
Gotta have
crazy.
it.
I guess I learned something about my computer. That's interesting. Gotta forgive me, bro. My wife texted me at the same time. What she texted me looked like 5 minutes ago. I
Nah,
missed
you
it.
good, man. Take care
Just
of
in,
business.
well, if she hit me, it looked like she might need a credit card number or something. So I just keep my eye open for it.
Okay.
But yeah, man, how things going with you?
Man, things going good, bro. Man, I forgot it's hot. It's the holiday week. I'm staying up this way. I'm not going home for Thanksgiving, but man, it's cool, bro. Gonna do a Friendsgiving this year. It's my first time in a long time being away from family, for Thanksgiving. So but excited, man, just being in my own little world, being in my space. And but it's been a good week overall, bro. Just calibrating, planning, thinking about 2025, just the moves that I want to make. So, getting a head start before the new year, planning ahead right now. So, but been a good week, bro. But how about yourself?
Yeah, same thing, man. Just trying to get through this here year. I've been drained just because I've been coaching so many people, and I'm realizing now in this season the power of time.
Yeah.
And when you give someone a whole hour of your time, and that's time that you can't get back.
Yes.
And then when you trade time for money, and in the sense of a hourly wage, even
Yeah.
like working a job. I mean, it's way better than when I was making $9.50 an hour, but it's still like, man, with this hour and then 2 hours and then 3 hours and 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, I could have been writing a book that could change the world. I could have been writing a book. I could have been, you know, shooting. I could have shot 6 YouTube videos that would have reached 60,000 people collectively.
Yeah.
And then I just was on the phone with one person. And so, who may not even listen, may not even. So, man, it's been hard. So, I think 2025, man, I'm going to be very selective with the one on one calls.
Yeah, bro. Since I've known you, man, this seemed like this been like your busiest time. And I think that it says a lot about the state of love and relationships today. It's good that people are reaching out, but it's like peak season for you. It's like, what's going on? And I kind of want to touch on that today, man. I was watching your video you posted yesterday. I think it was yesterday, and you said congrats to making good at Jonathan Major, bro. First off, if you retire from coaching, your stand up comedy career going shoot to the moon, bro. I was dying laughing yesterday. I couldn't. Oh my god, I couldn't help. I started to text you, but bro, I love the way that you can take something so serious and so real and point out issues, but then that comedic relief in it, bro. You got a gift there, bro. Like, man, I don't know if you'll ever take it serious, but bro, I think you could really do it.
That's funny, man. Like, people be saying that, but I just literally be talking. And I'm thinking as I'm talking. And so I'm just kind of talking. And then people, I will see some people comment and be like, oh, that was funny, or I got to laugh or something like that. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
And so that's
yeah,
why, that's interesting though. But I guess, man, I'm talking a whole hour, you got to kind of be somewhat lighthearted.
yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
it'd just be too dull.
Yeah. And you've been authentic. That's what's cool. In today's creator economy, you just yourself, and when you get on the camera by yourself, you flow, like from start to finish, man. So that's really a special gift. But I'm for real, bro. I think there's a space for clean comedy, bro. And just like, but it's clean comedy, but you really giving substance too. You also delivering a message by talking about mainstream things. And
You're
so,
right.
but I just love the breakdown of one thing that you said yesterday. You were talking about how important representation is in media. And like I've been thinking about that more and more, and we've talked about it a little bit on here. But yeah, man, I just wanted to talk about that and just to pick your brains some more on that, just like how you piece together Megan Good and Jonathan Majors and just her past relationship with Devon Franklin and the look, because I think that we don't realize how how manipulative and the power of the influence of mainstream people are, and then especially within Black culture, and especially like when it comes to relationships and dating. And something else I wanted to touch on, there was a influencer, I think her name is Woe Vicky. She commented, she's a white girl. She commented on Twitter and said that she's looking for a successful Black man that's an athlete, footballer, NBA, and she's single, ready to settle down, have some kids. I'm paraphrasing, but she put that out there. So I want to touch on that too, just the state of Black love, but then also how Black men were kind of looked at as just a resource. And so, man, just wanted to start by hearing your perspective, man, and see if I can get me some comedic relief today too.
No, no. That with the Jonathan Majors and Megan Good thing, really what I was trying to get at is how looks are, like how looks compatibility works, because a lot of times it'll be this look of a woman and she wants this look of a man because the magazines and the movies tell her, if you look like this, you need a man who looks like this, like Megan and Devon. But Jonathan Majors has a totally different look. And it's like nobody would have put them together. They would have put her with Devon Franklin, and then her and Devon Franklin didn't work out. Who's to say her and Jonathan Majors will? But he looks the complete opposite of Devon Franklin. And yet they look super duper in love to me. Like whether it's a healthy love, toxic love, who knows? Because we're not in it. But they look super in love. And so that's really what I was getting at, of like, we just need more representation of, reality and people, not just going based on a magazine type or the media, what the media portrays and things of that nature. Cause I get tired of seeing that, because sometimes I'll be coaching a woman and she want a man who look like this. And I'm like, the man who looks like that does not want a woman who looks like you. And so you got the, and vice versa.
Yeah,
And guys will be like, oh, I deserve this level of woman. And I'm like, no, this it's not gonna, she's not looking for you. And even seeing guys who, even with the height thing and all of that, you got guys that's 5'6" and things of that nature, and they get looked down on by women, figuratively and literally.
yeah,
And it's just like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? Like they say, we the same height when we lay down. And so I'm like, so if y'all could still procreate, you could still laugh, you could still go on dates, why does he have to be 6 foot tall when this could be the man of your dreams? And so that's really what I was kind of getting at, of like, not everything being cookie cutter and just looking how it's supposed to look. And then that's a whole nother situation with the Woe Vicky thing of like, Black men being a resource. And to be honest with you, before the thing came out with Megan Good, they were saying she was paying Jonathan Majors bills. I honestly was looking at that like that. Like she was looking at him like a resource, because I feel like that DC Comics or Marvel movies pay totally different than a Tyler Perry movie. And no offense or anything like that to Tyler Perry, but them the movies that Jonathan Majors be in, it'd be $100 million budget.
yeah,
So if you in a good role in that, what you making, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million? I
yeah,
don't know. So at first I was looking at Megan with the side eye, like, okay, do you think, are you attracted to Jonathan? Like, do you think he's your type, or you want your man who finna have a good bag for years to come when Denzel and all them get out the way? And so, and then when you see what Woe Vicky did, that is a whole nother subject, bro, where I be talking about how a lot of times white women will only get with a Black man if he is the pick of the litter. Like if he is really him.
yeah,
And then it's like that becomes very upsetting to me and to a lot of Black women, because it's like that wealth could have become Black generational wealth that you now gave away to another race. Not saying that I'm racist or any of us are racist, but it's like you still should care about your own, because every other race care about their own.
yeah,
And if you can love anybody, why not love somebody who look like you, especially when you come into means that could start to change the narrative for your culture, your people in your city, your family, what have you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a whole that's a deep one.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the reason that I wanted to talk about the two together is because of media and how powerful media is. Because I've heard it from Black women too. You know, whenever the stereotypical successful Black man in the league or in music or whatever he marries outside of their race, they really get affected by it. You know, I don't think people really understand the influence and how much we really do pay attention to the little things, right? And like why it seems a small demographic is just like represents all of us, and that's not the case. But it's because I think in the same way that other races may look at the pick of the litter, we have been programmed through our music and media to think about the resources of a man and to think about the sexual objectification of the Black woman, you know. And so I think we're really affected by that, because like, you know, I've heard women like say that like, oh man, another successful Black man, you know, marrying, you know, a white woman or somebody, you know, outside the race, when the statistics show that 80% of Black men that do get marry within the race. But it just goes to show how much we pay attention to mainstream people, to the celebrities. Like we idolize these people, and who we pay attention to and where energy goes, that's where attention flows, you know. And that becomes a part of our subconscious mind. And so we begin to believe in this, that, oh, Black men don't want me, or, you know, Black women don't want me, you know. And I've even had like instances where I've heard Black women say, because of the way that I talk and articulate myself, that they automatically assume and think that I like white women, you know. So it's just like all these little things that like we pit against ourselves in our own mind that keep us from certain people. And I think that's why we just really have to be careful with media, you know. And even with social media, I've talked about this before, my me being off of Instagram is because I don't want to listen to too much mainstream media and people and talks and conversations, because I understand that that will change my mind. That'll have me in the delusion bubble of thinking that. I remember being in high school. I just knew that I knew that I was gonna meet Megan Good one day, and that was gonna be my wife. Like I was really really just crushing on her in that manner, you know. But now, like this was before Instagram and social media, before you had an inside look into people's life on your phone. So now like we're all being affected by this on a mass level, and it's really got us in this like delusion bubble, you know, where like you was talking about, like where we want somebody that we're not necessarily looks compatible with, you know. And then whenever, you know, lastly, when I look at the Whoa Vicky situation and I analyze and look at her, I don't know her, never met the girl or talked to her, but she represents someone that probably comes from the same social economic background as certain people of color, you know. And so maybe culturally that's why she wants what she wants. But then also when I looked at the tweet, the stipulation of a successful Black man within the league, within these things, you know, it's just interesting, just overall the overall state of just Black love, and like who really wants it. Is it do you want love, or do you just want resources and social status, you know, from us, from all women, you know?
Right. And a lot of times it looks like social status. And also what I was looking at, like with a situation like the Whoa Vicky, a lot of times I noticed that when a lot of the couples, the interracial couples, I don't really get mad at them a lot of times, because I could tell how, like if you look at Whoa Vicky, she's not what white men look for. So but then the black men that she would get are not necessarily what black women look for. And so it's almost
Mm,
like an outcast being with an outcast. So they
yeah,
say, hey, I'm not being celebrated in my own race. My race doesn't want me. So guess what? I don't want my race.
yeah,
And that's what happens with guys like yourself who articulate very well is, and I know a guy, I got a homeboy who he grew up in a house in a white neighborhood, and he was the only black person. Pretty much it was one other black family out there out of 100 houses. And where we was wearing Reeboks and Jabos and Dickies, he was dressing at Express. And Express, that store in the mall, that stuff was like, cheapest thing was like $60,
Yeah.
$80. And so he has a white wife now. And I realized that it really was because he tell me it's my fault, because he saw my girlfriend in high school was a white girl, and he was like, man, your fault. Like, you the first one I seen with a white girl. And his wife actually looks like her. But
Wow.
what I also realized, whereas for me too, I just talked to the young lady because she hollered at me because I was the star basketball player.
Yeah.
We played against her team, and I
Yeah.
had like 25 points on them. And after the game, I'm walking out, and this little girl comes up to me, and she was like, hey, my sister told me to give you her phone number. And it's a little white girl. And she like pointed at her sister, and her sister was like over there, and was like, a slim white girl with a booty on her and some curly hair. But again, her look was not praised by white guys. They
Yeah.
didn't. She had a different kind of forehead, different kind of nose, different kind of chin, and then she had a booty, which back then, 2000, booty wasn't in for white girls. It's in now. White
Yeah.
girls try to build a booty, but back then you need that flat board, and that's what white guys like, straight down. They ain't like no type of booty. And so I talked to her, but I was more opportunist. And so that's how I've been looking at these things. But again, she looking at me like, okay, I don't want white guys because white guys don't want me. But if I want a black guy, I want the best.
Yeah.
I want number one.
Yeah.
And so that again, that happened, but we don't really explore it. And so I'll see guys like yourself from where I grew up in Polk County. All the guys talk like me, talk like me, or worse, like a thicker accent or a different type of accent, but none of us really enunciate our words fully. And so when it comes to, if you can speak properly and you can pronounce all your words correctly, you almost could not relate to black girls,
Yeah.
because the black girls would talk like that too.
Yeah.
Ebonics or whatever you want to call it, slang.
Yeah.
And so you end up getting the unattractive white girl because she educated, went to a good school, she speaks well, but she's not desirable to the blonde hair, blue-eyed, muscular white quarterback. He don't want her. None of them want her. So then that dynamic, bro, is I studied that dynamic because I grew up in like a racially type split up place.
Yeah.
And I would see certain things. And I remember when I was in middle school, my cousin, he 5 grades ahead of me, and he was in 12th grade. So I was in 7th grade, and he had a white girlfriend. And I was like, man, why you got a white girl? He was like, you'll understand when you get older. And nothing in me could understand being with a white girl. I'm like, no, I won't. I ain't never having no white girl. You kidding me? And then when I got to high school, I said, oh, the white girl have the car. The white girl got money for your Valentine's gift. The white girl got money for your Christmas gift, for your birthday gift. The white girl could come pick you up and take you to the mall, take you to the game.
Yeah.
The black girl, she walking. She ain't got no money. So it's like you get to a place where you get the white girl, you getting jerseys, you getting hats, you got snacks. And so it's one of those things, and now it's the reverse. Now we see the Whoa Vicky, she want her a black man with money. And so it's a lot of black guys like Russell Wilson. He was married to a white woman. The other quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, he half white, I think, but he married to a white woman. Robert Griffin III, RG3, was a star quarterback. He married to a black guy. He married to a white woman.
Yeah.
And then you got in the NBA, you got a host of guys who making 20 plus million and they got a white woman. And so I think that's where that narrative comes from. It's like if it was just a random guy and he make 50K, I think a lot of black women be like, oh, you date any color you want to date. But when a guy go to touching 10, 15, 20 million,
Yeah.
like, bro, look what you could have done for your people.
Yeah. Yeah. In the spotlight. That's why like people love LeBron James and his wife so much because they've been together since high school. So that story is so like, oh my God, like he a real one. But bro, yeah, man, what you saying is so real, bro. Cause even for myself, like I've had to have that conversation with myself in my mind because even little things, bro, like for a while, like my standard was like, I'm not dating somebody that also doesn't come from a 2-parent household. But am I being realistic if I know for sure I want to marry a black woman? That ain't reality. So it's certain things that I've had to realize, like I'm rare in a sense. And like, for me too, again, because I heard that growing up. I remember I left private school. My parents sent me to an all black school, middle school, because they wanted me to be socially well rounded. And I remember like I didn't feel like I fit in at the private school because I was black. And then when I got to public school, I didn't feel like I fit in either with the black kids because the way that I talk, because they always said, you sound white, right? And so it made me like a chameleon at an early age. It made me kind of be a politician, where like I understood how to float between all demographics of people and code switching. I could go hang with white people. I know how to speak their culture and their lingo. I can go hang with my people. Don't mean we necessarily like cool and friends, but I know how to speak and get along. So I was cordial with everybody. And then when I went to Howard, that really opened my mind, like being at a HBCU, because I'm like, okay, there's black women out there that like I can relate to, that are also like me, like intellectually articulate, talk like me. But I think that's one reason why you have some black guys like myself who maybe like I grew up in the black community, but those black guys that grew up in a white suburb is culture and tribalism more so than it is they just hate themselves. They just a product of their environment. And for me, luckily, I have my mother and aunties and different women around. So like I've always been attracted to black women, but black women aren't always attracted to me. But let me go on and get married to a white woman, and how many black women are going to speak up and to say something now, which is just this whole like weird oxymoron. But yeah, I think that's the reason, bro. I think a lot of it is just culture, but then also region too, because if you go to an Atlanta, where it's the black Mecca and you got a lot of black wealth, then like it's different. It's way more black people that are doing well, and on equal social economic, playing field. So all of that, those things change, but it's
Or that
really
Howard.
important. Huh?
Or Howard, like where,
Right.
where you went.
Right. Or just any HBCU, like is
Yeah.
you
I don't
around.
know. I don't know if it's any HBCU now. Cause ain't now Howard, from what I hear, Howard got more money, got more black people with money than some of the other HBCUs. Cause now I'm familiar with FAM. I ain't
Okay.
meet no money at FAM. I
It,
ain't,
it- you know, it's
you
it.
got your little segments, but FAM, cause all my family went to FAM, it felt a little more hood to me. But from what I hear from Howard, I really haven't heard about the hood from Howard now. Cause like Howard seemed like it's the Huxtables kids. Whereas fam is like a little bit of all the black people. It's like,
It's
yeah, you might
layers.
have layers to it. But
Money, but you know what? Money looks different state to state. Howard, when I was at Howard, it was people from all over, from West Coast, East Coast, and international. FAMU, North Carolina A&T, like schools like that is going to be more like state. You're going to get more people from the state, but Howard was people from all the states. So it looks different. So you see how money looks in different areas. Cause like I had some homeboys that went to Prairie View A&M, and I would go visit them, and money looked different out there. They're homecoming, people pulling up in RVs, they ride horses and dirt bikes, different things like that. So it's that Southern country money, versus you go to the West Coast, money looks different too there. So it's layers to it. And then also too, like you may have somebody like yourself, they talk like you, but they're intelligent, you're articulate, you got a mind on you. So all these different nuances play into it. But Howard, I'm gonna definitely give a shout out to the Mecca. It is different, it is what it is for a reason. But like I said, it opened my mind, just realizing like, okay, like even just geographically, like I got a homeboy that I went to Howard with. He met his wife in DC after he graduated, And I was back at home at the time, and we just talking about dating. He's like, bro, you got to come back to DC, go to Atlanta, LA, or New York, because that's where you're gonna have a better pick of the litter of, like, the educated or intelligent black woman. As you know what I'm saying, like, and it's not me putting down any other black woman, just speaking my truth and what some of us talk about. And I didn't want to. I was like, no, bro, like I don't believe in that. Like I could find a woman anywhere, and I still believe that. But I get what he was saying. Just like by numbers, you go to these areas. If you're looking for a corporate woman, they're most likely going to be in these environments, in these cities, because that's where the companies are. They're ambitious, they're driven, whatever it is that they want to do. Those are cities that curate that. So it's a lot of layers to it too, man. Because I do recognize that I'm an anomaly, and I don't mean that braggadociously. Like, I just understand, like, the little things are like the likelihood of me running into a black woman that also comes from a two-parent household, because one thing that I saw growing up that I admired was like seeing my dad and my grandfather have that relationship, like son-in-law to father-in-law. And so, like, seeing that, like, I've always wanted that too. But like, as I've gotten older, I've had to be more realistic. Like, okay, hey, that's a preference. I don't got to be a standard.
You know
Um,
what, bro? I want you to think about this too. Why are you saying that? Before I forget, but I have been thinking for some time now, like a year or more, that I am noticing that women from two-parent households are worse than women from a single-parent household. I've been thinking about this. Like, I'm going down the list of all the women I know from a two-parent household, and majority of them is a mess. And I feel like the ones I'm thinking and this is just my experience, but it's like I think that sometimes a two-parent household can spoil you. It can spoil you because you got a Superman and he does everything, and your dad is your Superman, and so you don't have a reality of the nuances of a man because he hides his arguments. The arguments are in the room with mom. Her being cheated on, it's not known. Her, if
yeah,
hands get put on her, it's not known.
yeah,
Mom protects dad from the daughter or sometimes the son because not wanting to make him look bad. So the daughter go out and she feel more freedom, and she feel more like she more free. So she might be a looser. Like, she might be more loose. She might be more. And then you have those ones who their dad gave them confidence and assurance. And so it goes both ways. But what I've been noticing, because I remember one time, bro, I wrote a book for a young lady who come from a two-parent home, and she was doing threesomes. Like, she got with a celebrity, and she was doing threesomes with him. And she had a dad in the home her whole life. So that's one of the examples. My book, What Daddy Never Told His Little Girl, was really titled by a woman that was 10 years older than me, 32. She grew up in a two-parent home. Her dad was in the household, and she read my book. She was like, Tony, everything in this book my dad never told me.
yeah,
So I say, well, why don't we call it What Daddy Never Told His Little Girl? And then I think about my sister, who we have an amazing dad. She got pregnant at 16. Then I think about TD Jake's daughter, Sarah Jakes. She killing it today, but she got pregnant at 13 with
yeah,
her dad in the home. And then so I start going through all of these like examples that I could think of, and I was like, man, a lot of women from a two-parent home are spoiled, either spoiled or complacent, or they don't really. So I honestly believe that was wisdom from God to say. And then look, bro, I had slept with over 100 women by the age of 21.
yeah,
The woman that wrapped me around her finger, come from a single parent home. The woman I'm married to come from a single parent home and never lived in the home with her dad. She lived in the home for like a year or so with a stepdad. And then I thought about that too. My ex-girlfriend that I was with right before my wife, she come from a two-parent home. Mom and dad.
yeah,
Strong dad, but he was Muslim. But she popped pills, smoked weed, was loose. Give me 1 second, bro. Got to give my wife one of these cards.
yep, yeah,
She popped pills, did all of that. And so I started to think about that. And I asked my wife one time, I was like, This good. All right, thank you. All right, love you, baby. I was like, how you get so strong? Like, how you like you come from a single parent home? I should be able to get over on you. She was like, I seen my mom, seen her strength, seen what she had to do, and we split in a bean burrito for dinner. We sleeping in the car some nights. We come home and all our furniture on the sidewalk. You know, like she was like, I seen some stuff because coming from Jamaica, and then her mom got married, and her and the guy went through a divorce. And she said, when I saw my mom leave him because he wasn't treating her right, she said, that's when I told myself I'll never stay with somebody that doesn't treat me right. But on the flip side, a lot of young ladies from a two-parent home, they really get caught up in that, oh, my parents been married 40 years. And then so that may end up having them suffer the wrong and be in a toxic, abusive relationship because they're like, I gotta make it, gotta make it, gotta make it, gotta make it. They getting beat on, getting cheated on. I gotta make it like my parents. And so I've been looking into that, bro, and just the nuances of that and how. And then look, me and you, and I think this is what the Bible means when it says, train him up in the way that he should go. And so that when he is old, he won't depart from it. You got your story. It's elements to your story that are not in my story.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even see that on you. And then it's elements of my story that's not in your story. And you can't see that on me.
Yeah.
Like, you can't picture me selling drugs and having a gun and having 6 gold teeth. But me and you come from a 2-parent household.
Yeah.
But then guess what, bro? All of my homeboys that did not sell drugs come from a single-parent household. My upline in the streets come from a 2-parent household. Men who have sold drugs that come from a 2-parent household. So I'm starting to think about this thing, and I'm like, man, we got to do some deeper diving and some evaluation, and let's get into these nuances of the pros and cons of each.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to speak to, is the nuances of it, right? Like, so yeah, you do have those that come from a 2-parent household, but it's not healthy and they turn out in their own way. And then you have those that come from a single-parent household and it's a reverse effect, that they do get married, they do have, and so that's the thing. But the overarching thing, one, we got to look at it statistically, right? The numbers do show pros and cons of that. But then also the culture, right? Like, that's what I realize affects us all as Black people, getting back to the point with like media and the influence, right? Because many of us, even though we grow up in a healthy environment, 2-parent household, single-parent household, no matter what, we are influenced by the umbrella of the media. So what are we listening to and what do we watch on TV? That predicts many of our outcomes, right? Whenever we don't see any superheroes that are strong and powerful and saving the day, when we don't see television shows to where there's a man in the house and it's a healthy 2-parent dynamic that we see on television. But when we go back to the music, what is the music telling us to do? To have sex, to sleep around, to party, to drink, to smoke. And so that's the thing. Those are the dynamics of, though we can be trained in a way, like, what are the other influences that are in our ear, and what also affects us deeper as a culture and a group of people. We celebrate entertainment and sports as our culture, so we look at the artists and the athletes as the people that inspire us most, versus our parents' era. It still somewhat existed, but they had Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, they had Malcolm X, they had different leaders that existed. But if you look at the manipulation over time of how our community has been broken down and why media is the way that it is, even, I was listening to something that was just talking about how the label will influence certain beefs between other artists intentionally because they know they're going to profit off of it, right? Like, we are still in a form of slavery today. It's just modernized and it's computerized, right? And just, we don't really understand it or see it because we're caught up in it, And so that's why we end up the way that we are. And again, that's why I said, a couple episodes ago, that's why I don't listen to a lot of mainstream women. Because if I'm paying attention to that and I'm listening to what they talk about, I'm caught up in the trap of what they want me to do. All right, like that means, okay, as a man of substance, I'm gonna start hating my people. I'm gonna say, man, I ain't messing with no black women no more. Like, man, I'm gonna go get me a white girl or Asian girl or something like that, you know. Versus, I understand like that those women don't represent the masses, right? Like, because if I pay attention to mainstream media, I'll miss the girl next door that really could be my wife, that look just like me, you know, that can relate to me, understand me, and we have a cultural foundation and basis. But ultimately, the foundation has to be God. But we also got to see from the top down, like how we're manipulated as a group of people, and how the system wants it's more money. Like in a capitalistic society, there's more money that's generated keeping us in broken homes and environments, right? So we'll continue to push this music that talks about violence and talks about my baby mama. We'll support these artists that come from the bottom, and we celebrate getting it out the mud, right? Like even people that go on and go to college and go to school that are from the black community want to still fit in and portray this image. We got athletes that want to be gangster because that is what is seen as the idea for us as black men and women to be. That's why we promote so much within music, like baby mama culture, you know. But we don't look like it's so deep, bro. But that's why I wanted to like tie all this in together today, you know, just even within ourselves, because we are still byproducts of the black community and what's pushed on the black community. That again, you selling drugs, the things that I did that were horrendous as well, because of the culture, because of what we're listening to. So I think as a people, we got to stop celebrating and promoting and funding ignorance. We got to realize that we're funding our own demise, and we have to shift the things, right? Because the big labels that are going to push mainstream artists and music out there are not going to pick the people that are intellectual, that are conscious, that are spiritually grounded. They're going to pick the people that they know that just trying to eat, just trying to get it out the mud, right? And ain't no shade to them. They just trying to do better than what they come from, right? But it is detriment to where in the same cycle of our plug and our dope boys in our community get rich by selling drugs to our community, it's the same thing with the music, right? Like when I hear Cardi B and other artists say they don't let their own daughters listen to their music. One of the city girls said the same thing, like, nah, like I don't want her to be like that. But you profiting off of telling the masses this is how you should be. And if you don't know God, and if you're not aware, and if you're not intellectually sound, and you think for yourself, whatever you listen and watch and give your effort and energy to is what pays attention to you. And that's why you're so affected whenever you see a successful black man marry a white woman, because that is your idol. That is really your God subconsciously. I don't care how much you say you're a Christian or you love God and you're at church, you know, 3 times a week. What you give your attention to is what you serve.
And you know what, bro? Something I just learned this the other day, and I had not even thought about it. But I thought about it, but I didn't think about it in this way. I'm working on my insurance license, and I was going through the little class, and it was saying that it was mentioning this one type of insurance, and it was saying there are companies, major companies, who will put insurance on their biggest employees, like their most massive employees.
Yeah.
And I thought about that. I'm like, so that label got paid millions and millions, because you know insurance, what you pay is just a penny on the dollar to what the policy is worth. So if I'm signing Julio Fulio out of Jacksonville, and I know he killing people, and he going to the graves, and he digging up people's graves, and he stomping on people's graves, I know he's going to get killed.
Yeah.
So if I'm his record label, I'm finna put $100 million insurance policy on him.
Yeah.
And I may have to pay $1 million a year, but I'm gonna pay that $1 million a year because he finna die in 2-3 years, and guess what? He dead.
Yeah.
Every artist I sign, I'm putting 10 million, at least a $10 million policy on him.
Yeah.
Like, bro, is it 2 million? One of my policies is a $2 million policy, and it might be 20 or 30 years, and it's only $100 a month. You see what I'm saying? So just 2 million. So okay, let's 10x that. That's 20 million, and that's $1,000 a month. So that's what a label doing with Pop Smoke, with Julio Fulio, with all King Von, all these people. So they are putting us against us.
Yep.
So the music is killing us. The music got us killing each other, got us killing ourselves.
Kendrick
With
versus Drake.
Kendrick versus Drake. And then even with that, like, realistically, somebody could lose their life. Imagine the guy from the Migos, Offset and
Yep.
Takeoff with the other boy name, the young man who died.
Yep.
What's his name? Takeoff. Yeah,
I
Takeoff.
can't remember.
I'm
Maybe.
thinking he man got killed. They was the biggest group at the time. Basically, maybe they had just broke up, but the man lost his life at a dice game,
Yep.
bruh. That if the label, his manager, maybe had a policy on him. Hopefully they did, but not to get him killed. But the label probably got millions of dollars based on their insurance policy. So it's like they don't even really care about what we do to each other. It's like, yeah, you want to put this out there, do that. But if we wanted to become rappers and we wanted to be conscious rappers, we wouldn't be able to get a deal.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to get a deal.
Yeah.
And so when you were saying that, man, it made me think about that. Like, we being put against each other, and it's a lot of money being made off of us
Yeah.
and our ignorance and our stupidity. And
Yep.
then that also leads to the breakdown in our relationships. A lot of black men today want a woman of another race because of mass media. Mass media for black women is the City Girls
Yep.
and Meg the Stallion
Yep.
and Glorilla and Sexy Red. I can't think of one rapper that is on that level that just is lyrical. That's on that level. Yeah, we got the other rappers, but I don't even know what they rap about.
Yeah.
Big Lotto and
Yeah.
Ice Spice, which that's different. They light skin. They look like they could be biracial. I don't know if
Yeah.
they consider, even I don't count Cardi B because she Hispanic,
Yeah.
but she's
most
still
of them
talking.
talk about sex. Like it's something about glorifying their body, being half naked. It ain't really nothing, no substance there,
No
Like
substance.
even if you think about in media right now, I was gonna ask you, like, what black men do you know in media right now that represent strong masculinity, kind of like in the sense of like Chadwick Boseman, like who do we have left today that represents something of like power of any sorts, and is that by design?
Exactly. You're right. Is that by design? It is. I think it's by design. I was
Bro.
in the barbershop watching Martin, and they had Martin on the TV, and I'm like, way back then, bro, they had Martin dressing like a woman. He was Shanae.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the like the intro of the show, and I'm like, whoa, he was a woman. They had him as Shanae back then. And then, even like the Eddie Murphy was way back then dressing up as a woman. The Wayne's brothers, when they did White Girls, dressing up as women.
Right.
I'm like, they put so many black men in a dress. The only white man I know got in a dress was the Robin Williams, I think his name was, with Miss Doubtfire.
Yeah.
It probably was some others, but it was almost like a ritual. Every black man had to get in a dress. Even Tyler Perry in this day and age, in order for him to make it, you know how many black screenwriters we got that will never sniff the silver screen like Tyler Perry has, but because he was willing to, as a big black man, put on a dress and become a big black woman, instead of just having a big black woman play the role, it still has an effect because we know we looking at a transvestite, basically. Even though it's a woman in the movie, we watching it still with a sense of reality of this is a burly looking woman. It's a manly looking woman. And this is who we got to listen to, Madea. Instead of it being just an actual woman who could have been full figured or tall or whatever, but it's an actual woman with a vagina. We watching a man put on a dress. And so, and we don't think about that, how that media affects you. So guess what? A little boy who knows that this is a man in a dress, 8 years old, he go put on his mama dress.
Yeah.
Put on her heels. I just want to look like Madea. I just want to do what Madea doing.
Yeah.
And it's the imprinting that the programming and the imprinting that we don't even think about. And I remember when I was about to lose my life, and my favorite rapper was Plies. And I remember, bro, somebody came to me and say, man, Plies got a college degree. And he's smart. I was like, what? I was like, no, I thought this was a certified goon. They said, no, bro, he going affiliated.
Yeah.
His brother went to prison. Plies ain't that.
Yeah.
I'm like, they like, you out here in the streets. All y'all out here in the streets listening to Plies. When Plies just being funded by the dope money. But
Right.
he not that guy. He
You
went to
playing a
college.
role.
Yeah, somebody showed me him playing college football at like USF
Yeah.
or something like that. I was like, are you
A lot,
kidding
and the
me?
thing is, a lot of rappers are even. I think 2 Chainz had like a 4.0 in college. It's a lot of rappers that, again, these are the options that we're given, though, right? Like, how many black men really excel in corporate America that aren't very feminine, you know? And then going back to what when you were listening off the people in media, like a lot of our black men, the role that they have to play is being very weak and docile. Like it's hard for me to watch a lot of mainstream film in general today because the man is very weak and goofy, can't get nothing together. But if you look at a lot of our black people that we know and we can name off the top of our head as men, they're funny, they're comedians, right? But again, where's the intellectual? Where's the awkward, intelligent black guy? You know, like the understanding that there's many archetypes. There's so much to us as a people, but what's portrayed is what is needed to keep us stuck in a particular place, you know. So we're funny, we tell jokes. So like even, you know, with online dating, I pay attention, you know, to women and what they post in their profile. And a lot of girls that say, I want a guy that can make me laugh, but it's because subconsciously that's what you've seen in the media, right? Or I want a guy that can protect me and do this stuff because that's the music that you listening to, the gang member or the thug archetype, you know. So it's deep, man. Like when you really start to look at why we want what we want, we don't even know what we really want, but we just going off of what we've been programmed and what we've been listening to, you know. And again, that's why I said I'm aware of that, so I unplug from all of that because I'll start to feed into it. Even bro, I was talking to a homeboy this week about toxic masculinity because that really started to buzz when social media started to really grow from like 2012 2013 and on, right? And I remember like some of the stuff that I had did at that time. And I really started to attach my identity to like, man, I'm a toxic man. I'm a toxic man because I'm listening to all these stories of what women are saying. But I'm also thinking of like the women that I'm slept with, the girls that I'm, you know, like been a fool with, I done cheated on or just like done dirty. And so I really attached my identity to thinking like I'm no good, I'm nothing, right? But where have we seen a movement of men publicly speaking about and talking about the negative things that women have done, and it's become a mass movement that has gotten to a psychological level with women, you know? And so I was telling him, I was just like, yeah, bro, like that's why like I try and limit my time on social media, mainstream news and television, because you start to take on that thinking and you'll think less of yourself as a man. So it took me a while to let go of like wanting to be a leader and talk like how I really talk and how I really want to be from a healthy perspective, because I was afraid of being a toxic man, you know? And so we're coming off of a wave of toxic masculinity to now, like, I want a man to be a man. I want a man to be a leader. But everything in the media, especially within our culture, is a weak, docile, goofy man that can't lead himself, articulate himself, always has to like be joking or funny. Or like when I look at Kevin Hart, like, why is Kevin Hart one of our biggest stars? How come that you got this role of comedians that are black that have this long run, right? But again, what do they really represent in the sense of like an alpha man or a leader of sorts? They don't, you know? And so therefore we're looking out for these things, but it's deep, man. I ain't gonna keep going
And
on
they
a tangent
chose
with it, but
they chose a little black guy
right,
because he doesn't present a threat.
right.
He doesn't look like he can harm a fly.
Yeah,
And no disrespect to him, but no man fears or respects a 5'4" man. And you could respect him, but you're not gonna fear him.
right,
And not even just talking about like of the same race, because we could know a 5'4" man who is all the way a man. But
right,
when you're
right.
thinking about the another race, if another race says, let's choose who we want to represent black men as the number one most seen face in the box office,
Yeah,
they chose a 5'4" black man. Like Denzel doesn't do enough movies. Like he, and rightfully so. His big budget movies, he get 20 million plus a movie. I just watched him yesterday in Gladiator 2. And now even in that movie though, he played like more, it's different times. So they was in Rome. He played more of a feminine role. with the hoop earrings and touching men here and touching men here, and it
And they
was
had a
more
scene with
feminine.
supposedly they had a scene with him kissing a man in the movie too, and he came out
Yeah,
and said it
he
himself,
kissed
I
him.
think, trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah, he
Or they
kissed
cut the
him.
scene out.
Oh, they did. He
He
kissed
had,
him on the forehead, the cheek, but it was very sensual. It was like he holding his face,
but
and
that's
he
the one that they put in the movie. They cut out a piece where he kissed a man on the mouth, and he talked about it in an interview, I think, trying to get ahead of it, right? But
I could see that because
yeah,
because I'm like, okay, maybe they cut out that part because the way he was kissing, the mouth was next.
yeah,
And so yeah, they probably cut that out, but he was real feminine. He
yeah.
wasn't himself that he normally is, the tough guy, whatever, that's, extracting vengeance for those who can't represent themselves. But so it was a different feel. I didn't necessarily like him in this role, because he wasn't the hero. And so often we get to see Denzel as the hero.
But key word, bro. See how you said that, like him in this role. Like we get it, like we attach to what we see, bro. Representation matters. Like, going
It
back to what you
matter.
said yesterday about Jonathan Majors and Megan Good, seeing that matters,
It
right?
matter.
Whatever we see on television and is constantly put in front of our eyes is for a reason, you know. And how many of us? I hope they make it, right? But how many more women are gonna feel let down whenever, not speaking to existence, but if they don't make it, right? Like that's going to continue to deplete the idea of what Black love is and
You
what it
know what a
looks
lady
like.
said to me? She might have got blocked, but she said, Tony, I see that she was trying to make it like, I'm happy that Megan Good lowered her standards to be with Jonathan Majors, as if like he looked like the bottom of a shoe. And she was like, I hope that you also want to see handsome Black men like Idris Elba lower their standards to be with an unattractive woman. And I'm like, you missed the whole point.
Yeah,
Because Jonathan Majors isn't unattractive. Like a lot of women came and said that he's a fine man. I say he's just a different look. He's
yeah,
not like the pretty boy. He looked like what we would picture a modern day John Henry, strong and more muscular type. Like the more, if you talking slavery, you like field versus house.
yeah,
And we talk about
yeah,
that in the Black race. Like, oh,
yeah,
boy, you would have been in the house. Boy, you pretty. You'd
yeah,
have been in the house. Oh, you'd have been out there in the field. And so it's like, what I was saying is she went from a guy who was seen as like a pretty boy, Devon Franklin, to a guy who more burly, muscular,
yeah.
more manly,
Cornbread
and
bed.
total different look.
Yeah,
And so, because I can't judge a man in the sense of like, oh, he's handsome, he's not handsome, he's because I'm not a woman, so I don't know. I could look at a guy and say all his features intact, so he must be handsome. And
yeah,
then my wife would be like, he's not handsome at all. And I'm like, oh, well, glad no, I'm not into men. At least you just confirmed it. But it was one of them things of like, she was like, so basically she was saying, and it's always this go both ways. I hope it go to both other ways. So basically she was saying that I hope that there's more representation of handsome men being with women who aren't necessarily seen as looks compatible, which I do hope that as well, that more men would choose a woman based on her character and not just her looks. But that wasn't the point of, Megan and John.
yeah,
And but just to say, like, it's almost like this tit for tat thing. Like, Tony, oh, you celebrating a woman lowering her standards. You better celebrate a man lowering his standards. And it's like, me personally, if I seen a couple like Common, the rapper, the bald head rapper from
yeah.
Chicago who do
Mm-hmm.
all the voiceovers, in that
Yep.
movie he was in called Just Right or something like that, and he was with Queen Latifah. And Queen Latifah, I believe, is lesbian in real life.
Yeah.
And she's a different kind of woman. Like she doesn't look all super feminine or nothing like that. Like she I don't know how tall she is, but she just looks like a stronger woman, you know. And him and her in common was in dating in the movie. And I'm like, if I see a relationship like that and the man is a heterosexual man and he's not just using this woman as a cover up, as his beard,
Yeah.
because he's really into men, I love that. Because I would say that's real love. He didn't choose her because she was 5'4", 130 pounds, flat stomach, perfect bubble booty, all of this. He chose this woman who body type is not often praised,
Yeah.
not often, highlighted and showcased. He chose her because of her natural beauty.
Yeah.
Because he sees that even though her body type isn't the body type that all the magazines and everybody portray, she's still a beautiful black woman.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
honestly believe, and that's my point, I honestly believe, bro, that is why Queen Latifah is a lesbian, because her body type is not attractive to men, because black men don't see that body type in the media, in the movies, presented to us as a sex symbol.
Right. Right. We see
So
Megan Good.
we see Megan Good. But if we were being shown women built like Queen Latifah, then we probably would have looked at it like them certain regions of Africa where the more meat on a woman bones, the more beautiful she is, the more rich she is, the more successful she is. But we were shown this little runaway slave body. Like you ain't got nothing to eat. You just escape and you can't eat. So now we attracted to this little petite little booty and
Yeah.
all of this little
Yeah.
shape. And that's the look. And you said something that was so deep, bro, that it just hit me today when you said that. And I did not realize that. When you said the reason why women always say they want a man who could protect them, like, and the reason why all these women is attracted to the thug, to the bad guy, is because that's what they see in the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, you right.
Yeah.
Juice, Menace to Society,
Yes.
all these movies, like, they got this love interest and it's always a thug.
Yeah.
The guy's a thug, he a killer, he a dope boy. And that's the movies that we come up on.
Yeah.
That the world watch. So the women like, oh, I want a thug. I want a
Yeah.
dope boy. I don't want the good kid that's sitting in class getting an education. And
Yeah.
bro, I hadn't really put that together.
Yeah. That's how deep it is, man. My parents didn't allow me to watch those movies growing up. So
Me either.
people was like, what a lot of mainstream black culture, and I still don't identify with that representing black culture. Black culture to me is the men and women that I grew up around within my community, not what I saw on TV, right? And but it's powerful. Like when we got away from like your actors like Sidney Poitier that was like talking about being a strong masculine man and being a leader, but not just in some like domineering way, but being a teacher, being an educator. There was films of him in that role. Then you had this like the pimp and hoe era, to where we got all these films that are telling us to pimp and hoe each other, all the drug dealer movies. Like we glorify all the negative parts of our culture, but it's done intentionally, like that. Like that's the thing, man. And it's all archetypes. To me, life is a big video game, and those that control the video game show you what character they want you to play. And that's the manipulation of the adversary. That's why we got to get back to God. Like we can talk all day about like what the problems are and point out the things, but that is giving into the fruit, right? Like you want something that is not God. That's why you got to get back to what you're commanded to. Because yeah, I know for myself personally, if I leave my relationship with God, I'm gonna go after a woman just for her sex appeal and not for her spirit and substance, like that's the thing. That's why our divorce rates and the state of our community is what it is because we spend more time with the world and movies and television and Netflix and Instagram and Facebook than we do in the word. And then just spending time with God and meditating to know thyself, to know our mind, to develop our intellect, right? To be more conscious and aware of who we are and what really matters at the soul level. You know, we obey more what we understand with our senses, what our eyes can see, what we can feel, taste, and touch, you know. And man, that's the difference, bro. And like for me, like I really strive to go after a woman. Like I do have a type of what I like physically, but it's a preference. But I really try and go after women for their spirit and their substance. I really feel that out and pay attention to, like, are we spiritually aligned? Like all the other stuff could be cool, but that's what I realize. A lot of people, I think, go into relationships and marriage very blind because there's no true spiritual foundation. There's no substance there. I'm going after this woman because she fine and she coming with me because I got money. Like that's what we're being taught, right? Like that's what's being put in front of us to go after this type of man. And so that's why the plug got so many baby mamas, you know, because women want him for his resources, not because he can really lead them and cover them spiritually, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
just vice versa, man. But like that's why media is so powerful, and we really got to be careful. Because I was thinking, I was just like, man, it's dope that, you know, to see what the guys at EYL doing, having an invest fest, talking about generational wealth, understanding the markets, trading. I was just like, man, like that's cool. But like, what if we had something like a relationship fest or like love fest? Like, would people come to it? Like we love resources, but do we love the everlasting and the eternal thing, right? To really understand that love is God, but really love is a sheep and wolf's clothing for us today, because we equate love with romance films. We equate love with romance and infatuation and this high, right? But love is so much more than that. That's a small glimpse of it, but that's what we focus on. So as soon as that infatuation, that feeling leaves, we give up on the vow and the covenant, because we weren't really serving love. We weren't serving God. We were serving lust, you know? And so, man, just the whole media and just us being really self-aware is so important because it's so layered. And just like for myself, like I've really had to sit and think and just like, because I went through a phase where like I would meet women and they would like say little stuff just because of like how I present myself or how I talk. And for a second, I was just like, man, I ain't fooling with black. I might start dating outside the race, you know. But now since I've unplugged from all of that and I'm just really grounded in who I am and my faith, I'm like, nah, man, I still believe in us. I still believe in black love. I still believe in the representation. I still believe that that is the best thing that we can do for real power, is to build community. But it's hard because we got all these chains and balls that are attached to us via what we see with our eyes and Instagram and music. So that it's hard trying to tell somebody, hey, stop listening to everything that you believe is your culture and your identity of being somebody, right? Understanding that black culture is so much more than all of this, but it's hard trying to explain that to people when you've grown up in a society that that's the only way they portray you, as being something of any means or positivity. Like the thing for us as black people is recognition. Like we still struggle with that from slavery being passed down. Like we still struggle with lack of recognition. So that's why many of us, our athletes and our entertainers, they go broke trying to keep recognition and look like I'm not like what I come from. I got money now, right? But how many of us struggle with that economically long? Like how many of our ball players go broke for that, those things that we struggle with? But it's all again intentional to keep us buying in this capitalistic society, you know. And so like it's just a lot that we got to wake up to. But just even lastly, just like internationally too, that's why when you meet people from other countries, they like, I remember being in Argentina and somebody like asked me was I a baseball player, because I had on a Rays hat. And just like it, and it wasn't no other black people. I was so happy the first time I saw another black person when I was down there. But that's because that's how powerful media is, and that's what they see. So they think too, like, oh, you know, black people are just artists and, you know, and ball players, you know. And man, it's deep, bro. I could go on about it, but man, it's just like, will we fast from it? Will we go 2 weeks with no Netflix, with no music, with no Instagram? Can you do it? Right? Imagine how much more you could clearly see yourself if you could unplug from it, but most people won't.
Mm. You gave me an idea, bro. I wish I had the time to create like an Instagram and highlight black people who make money outside of sports and media and music, you know. Because I
Yeah.
remember I was pumping gas and I think I was driving an Escalade but it could have been something else. And I was pumping gas, and I had on like a Lululemon outfit with a baseball cap on. And the white guy behind me, he was like in a F-150 or whatever. And I looked young. Sometimes people don't always have these grades. So when I see people, sometimes they'll be like, man, you look 19, man, you look 21, because black don't crack. And so at that time, he couldn't really see me all the way. And he was like, hey, you play baseball? And I was like, no, sir. And he was like, oh, okay. He looked like a baseball player, man. But it wasn't that I look like a baseball player. Like, what does a baseball player look like? It's different in basketball. That's 6'8".
Right.
But baseball, that's an average size guy. So I just randomly played, but it's because I was driving like $100,000 plus vehicle.
Yeah.
So it's like, how's you a young black man? Like, what could you possibly do corporately to have this $100,000 plus vehicle other than play sports?
Right.
And you don't have on diamond jewelry, so I'm not assuming you're a rapper.
Yeah.
And I was like, crazy. And I remember I was driving my Bentley, and I was going down my street, and this dude was weed whacking, and he had his headphones on, and he didn't hear me coming up behind him, and he swung into the road. And when he swung into the road, his weed whacker hit the front of my car, and it like kind of scratched it on the side a little bit. And then the weed whacker hit him in the rib, and he like fell to the ground and then we called the police, and because he had like a little scratch on my car, and we were sitting there, and then the police was there, and something how it came out, and it was like, he was like, well, what even kind of car is this? Like, what is this? I was like, it's a $300,000 car. It's a Bentley. He was like, what are you, some type of ball player? And I was like, no, I'm an author.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't mean anything by that. I just was like, what was you, like Dwayne Wade or something? But he just could not. He was like, hold on, 300,000. And then he went to faking the injury. Oh, I think I'm hurt. He was ready to sue me. He thought, but then the police were like, sir, you in the wrong. He driving down the street. He got the right of way. You spinning into the road. He say, sir, you in the wrong. And then the white guy was like, no, I'm on the phone with my sister who's a lawyer, and she says, you don't know what you're talking about, cop. He's in the wrong. And the cop said, listen, sir, I'm here. I'm filing this report. You're not getting a payday. This is not an athlete.
Yeah.
And you're in the wrong.
Yeah.
And so it just made me think about that, like that, the portrayal in the media.
Yes.
Of how we are seen, and it affects how we see ourselves. Yep. And it affects the relationships we want, what we want our spouse to look like, what we want our house to look like, what we want to look like. And it's powerful. So, bro, we're gonna have to do us a part 2 on this perception is reality type thing, portrayal, representation, and because I know we could talk 3 more hours.
Yeah, man, it's a deep topic, but it's something that people really need to pay attention to, man. I just, I hate to beat a dead horse, but I just encourage people just to, over the holiday season, man, just take you a 2-week break from social media and listening to like mainstream stuff that ain't talking about God or substance or anything healthy, and watch how your mind is shifted, right? It's like, it's junk food. It's just mental junk food, like let it go, because then we can start to clearly see each other and love each other and believe in Black love again, because that's the ultimate thing that gives us power. We got to understand that slavery still exists. Like, it's just different today, and it feel good to be in slavery today because of the dopamine receptors and how it's tapped into psychologically. It's deep, but yeah, let's do a part 2, man. Appreciate y'all. This is Wednesday, so that means tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Happy holidays to y'all, and we'll be back soon. Peace.